Last week, in Uncle Larry's editorial corner, we discussed the problems with our society today. Those being that in our culture, the scum always rises to the top. And the biggest problems facing this country are caused by the people that are running it, in their insane quest for money and power. They're really fucking things up royally, environmentally and economically for the rest of us. And Uncle Larry isn't talking about politicians. Politicians are just a bunch of puppets and figureheads. Uncle Larry is talking here about the people who are really running things in America, boys and girls. And I think we all know who they are. You see, the problem is, if you do acquire wealth and power, or if you're born into it, you are naturally going to become conservative. I mean, after all, if you're at the top of the heap, why would you want anything to change? It's in your best interests to keep things exactly the way they are. The problem is that resistance to change is futile. I mean, you can't stop that wheel from turning. Let's present an analogy here. It's like we're all riding on this big Ferris wheel, see? And the people that are at the top of the wheel right now, they've used their wealth and power and influence to jam a crowbar into the gears, to lock that wheel in place so that they stay up there and the rest of us all have to make do with what we can grub out here on the bottom. Unfortunately, you cannot turn off the engine of change. Change is inevitable. So their jamming the process is just overheating that engine until it's going to blow up and the whole Ferris wheel is going to come crashing down. They're just hoping it won't come crashing down in their lifetime, but they're directly contributing to its destruction, the destruction of our American way of life. Now, like Uncle Larry said before, this week's editorial is about what we can do to stop this, to keep the wheel of change turning, some possible solutions to the problems. And Uncle Larry's going to go through some of those possible solutions for you boys and girls right now. Now, the first solution, and it's one that's occurred to other people besides Uncle Larry, is to just just round up everybody with more than $1 million worth of assets and take them out and shoot them. That way you get rid of the ruling class, one fell swoop. The only thing wrong with this solution is it doesn't work. It's been tried before throughout history, and what generally happens is you kill all the people in power, it leaves a huge vacuum, and other people move in to fill it. They end up being just as bad as the people that they're replacing. The leaders of the revolution got to be the leaders because they were hungry for power too. So naturally, they end up running things, and it's just like Pete Townsend says, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So really, a violent overthrow, it really doesn't work, boys and girls. And so I guess we can forget about that. That revolution that the weathermen in the 60s all thought was just around the corner, well, it's not going to happen, boys and girls. It's just not going to happen. You see, the problem with replacing one political system with another is that political systems just don't work. No matter how perfect and utopian a system you come up with, no matter how fair it is to everybody and how great it seems to work on paper, when you try to apply it to human beings, it never works for long because, human beings will always find a way to get around the rules. It's just human nature. People are always going to cheat. So you're never going to have a perfect political solution until you have perfect human beings. And that brings us up to our next possible solution. Now, every day, science is learning more and more about the chemistry of our brains. The electrochemical reactions in there that make up our thoughts. And pretty soon, they're probably going to come up with a drug that will make you be nice. Yeah, you'll take it, and all of a sudden you'll develop a conscience and compassion, and we'll be more spiritual and less materialistic, and everybody will get together in peace and harmony because this drug will make us all into better individuals. The reason this solution won't work? Well, the people in power will find a way to get out of having to take it. See, that's just it. They're going to say, it's great that everybody's milling around like sheep, but somebody has to look out for them, and it might as well be us, the people who aren't taking the drug. So there, just drugging everybody to make them all be nice, that's not going to work either, because some of those bottom feeders who are actually running things will find a way to prevent themselves from having to take the drug, and they're still going to run our lives for us. So, as promising as that solution might have sounded, making everybody want to be nice and get along, well, it's just not going to work either. Now, Uncle Larry personally always felt that really the best political system was an enlightened dictatorship. I mean, let's face it, most people in this country can't even decide what kind of beer to drink, let alone who should be running the country and what our policy should be. And as we've seen, democracy just doesn't work. People are too easily duped into voting for some big puppet like, our current talking sock that's in the presidency right now. So, Uncle Larry thinks that really if you have one guy making everybody's decisions for them, a guy or, a woman who really cares about the people, who isn't interested in their own personal power trip, but really wants to do what's best for everybody and can make those decisions, that's probably the best political system human beings have come up with. If you study history, you'll find out that every once in a while you got such an enlightened dictatorship, and usually the culture flourished and the arts flourished. There was a certain limited freedom of the press, and everybody was happy. The problem with this system is the enlightened dictator dies. None of us are immortal. The person who's running things croaks, and the person who fills that void usually isn't quite the exemplary individual that the previous ruler was. And then once again you go back into that whole cycle of the people who most desire to run things end up doing it, and the rest of us here on the bottom get screwed. However, perhaps we can create an artificial intelligence that would be our benevolent despot. We could program some big computer to always make the fair decision, to not be influenced by special interest groups, to balance the needs of the economy against the needs of the environment, and come up with a solution to do what's right. And that way, they're not tempted by pleasures of the flesh. Nobody could blackmail it. It would really search through its parameters, look through its programming for what's the right thing to do, and it would do it, regardless of the consequences. The only problem with this is the people that program it are bound to slip in a few little tidbits for themselves, and once again, you're screwed. You can only have a perfect artificial intelligence if somebody non-human programs it for you, because nobody can resist slipping in a few little goodies for themselves, and you're back to square one. You've got a benevolent dictator machine who's still playing favorites with the people who are willing to cheat, and the rest of us who are willing to play by the rules are going to get screwed.